Stephanie Grisham continues to spill the tea. Now, she is the former White House communications director and as well as former aide to Melania Trump, former first lady. And so now she's written this book. Yes, it's a cash grab, but I just can't help myself. These stories are funny and they're fun. And so also kind of scary. So now one of the latter stories is an event where she describes having some real big misgivings about some of the dictation that she was forced to take and also say on behalf of Donald Trump. So now in one weekend call from the president, Grisham described him ranting about General John Kelly and his comments in the conservative Washington Examiner. So now John Kelly said something like, oh, I wish that he would replace me with somebody who's not a yes man, somebody who will, keep him from saying and doing insane things because I am worried about him. So now Trump takes this as a complete act of disloyalty. But let me, before I get into that though, I want to give you the full quote in context here. He said, quote, I said, whatever you do, and we were still in the process of trying to find someone to take my place. I said, whatever you do, don't hire a yes man, someone who won't tell you the truth. Don't do that because if you do, I believe you will be impeached. Oops. Big surprise. He was right. Yes, of course he was right. So now, John Kelly's statements, of course, drove Donald Trump into a frothing rage and decided to call Grisham over the weekend. Grisham wrote that she dreaded these weekend calls, which apparently happened more than once, from Trump because he could be, quote, set off by anything. If you can remember, I believe it was Steve Bannon, Omarosa, Manigault, who would constantly bring Trump negative news articles or videos from CNN and be like, can you just look and see what they're saying about you on CNN, on MSNBC? And it would drive him, again, into a rage. He'd be like, oh, my God, how dare they? Fake news. Oh, God damn it. You put out a statement. Get me my phone so I can tweet. So now, in this case, one of those weekend calls involved John Kelly, as I said. Donald Trump demanded that she push back hard against John Kelly in his statements. Grisham then explains that she had dictated a statement that sounded the way that he dictated tweets to Dan Scavino. Here's what it was. I worked with John Kelly, and he was totally unequipped to handle the genius of our great president, Trump said, writing and rewriting and rambling in between. She feared that she had to get it perfectly correct, otherwise, quote, he would get irritated if it wasn't right. Once it was correctly read back to him, that statement, which sounds insane, he said, good. She then described him as being satisfied with himself and writes, it wasn't lost on me how weird it was for someone to call himself a genius, as Trump did on more than one occasion. Yeah, on many occasions. Many occasions, many people are saying that I am a very stable genius.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
He's like a smart person. I'm like a smart person. I'm like a very stable genius. In fact, two of my best traits are that I'm like very smart and very stable. Grisham, and remember, this is something that Grisham was ordered to say on his behalf. She then cringed when she read that statement back to him. And here's what she said about it. Quote, first, it made me sound like a complete idiot. Your typical crazy Trump cultist. Now remember, this is somebody in the administration who's saying, like, I don't want to sound like one of those morons that voted for us. Now, again, this is what they think. This is what they literally think of Trump supporters. What they think about you if you're a Trump supporter. You voted for him, if you support him, if you're Trump 2024, MAGA. She thinks you're a moron. She thinks you're a crazy cultist. And guess what? she's not the only one. Not the only one, guys. Like, she's got your number, but they all do. They all know you're insane. And guess what? They're still pandering. Many of them are still pandering to you right now, this very moment, trying to open your wallet to contribute to some whatever next, scheme that they cook up to take your money. That's what that's about. So now she also said, second, I hadn't liked everything General Kelly had done as chief of staff, but I respected him in his surface. Slamming him just didn't sit right with me. So then why did she do it? Well, here's what she said. And, take it for what it's worth. Whether or not, you think that she's like super weak or unprincipled or whatever. And that, I think, is probably the case. You would be correct. But she says, as with the First Lady, I was once again in the situation of striking back at someone in my own name on behalf of someone else who was actually the one who was pissed. Anyway, I couldn't tell Trump that. Why didn't I simply refuse? That option didn't even occur to me. He was in such a bad mood, he would have flipped out. It was another weird test of loyalty, and I was determined to pass it, but I didn't like it. Now, why did she want to pass that loyalty test? For the power, for the money. That's what this is all about. It's for the power, it's for the money, it's for the clout, it's for whatever job she might have wanted to line up after the White House, or just to stay to get more so she can write a book. So understand the motives of who is writing this. But at the same time, she is correct. And she was there for the longest time and was loyal, and then realized after January 6th that she had to get out, that she had to distance herself from this narcissistic moron and his entire messed up family and cultists that surrounded him. And so I think at the end of the day, yeah, if you want to make a few bucks like she does, and you don't want to be associated with that, I kind of understand. But okay. Anyway, so now after that happened, oh, and by the way, so she did release that statement, obviously, as she said before. Let's see. I'm going to show that this is in an October 26th piece that's from 2019 in CNBC. Just going to show you that here real quick. John Kelly never said that. He never said anything like that. If he would have said it, that I would throw him out of the office. He just wants to come back into the action like everybody else does, Trump said in a statement. Grisham said, I worked with John Kelly, and he was totally unequipped to handle the genius of our great president. It's a real statement. It's out there. So now, a hometown newspaper columnist at the Arizona Republic talked about this. I think a lot of us reported on how absolutely insane that sounded. And she said, they wrote, to suggest that a man like Kelly was unequipped to handle the genius of Trump is not just proof that Grisham is hooked on the president's Kool-Aid. It's proof that she's OD'd. He ain't wrong. Now, if you're going to release something that's unhinged like that, yeah, of course people are going to think that you're absolutely nuts. Because it is nuts. But it gets better. Just days after, Grisham recalled Trump calling her and telling her how much he appreciated what she had said about him, which struck her as odd. So just calls her up and said, Stephanie, thank you for the very kind words. Very tremendous. All those wonderful things that you said. And she's like, wait, you told me to say those things. Well, it was as if he didn't remember that he had composed it in the first place. Now, look, maybe it's because he didn't remember. We all know some of the stories by now of other staffers saying that he doesn't remember telling people to do things, even things that are illegal. So he'll order staffers like, oh, do this thing that might be illegal. And they're like, but sir, it's illegal. I don't care, do it anyway. And then later on, well, actually, no, first, they'll say, okay, yes, sir, we'll do it. And then later on, after they don't do it, he'll forget. And so he'll never ask about it again. And look, it's like this man has no object permanence at all. He doesn't read. He doesn't absorb new information. He's a one-pager kind of guy. He has no attention span whatsoever and a gigantic ego. Maybe he knows, and maybe I'm being unfair here. Maybe. I know. Maybe. But like, maybe he knows that he dictated that to her. At the back of his mind, maybe. And that he says, you know, and that he's convinced himself that she was saying all these nice things because he really is a genius and he is fantastic. And John Kelly, of course, is terrible. And that's why he could never match up to the genius of working for Donald Trump. And it's this weird, like, trying to convince himself that all the nice things that he orders people to say about him are actually things that they wanted to say about him. It's some very weird mental gymnastics going on here, which is kind of why it's difficult to wrap my brain around it, because normal people don't have to do that. But again, we're talking about Donald Trump here, who is basically a giant toddler. I don't know for certain. But the story itself is, and all of the stuff that we've known about Trump from leakers and people who were in the administration, who were part of the administration, who had leaked, and who would come out afterwards to basically confirm all this stuff and say, yeah, that was a mess. Yep. It is also disturbingly weird, and it's sad. Very sad. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.